You would be forgiven for thinking the Arts Centre is any ordinary building. But inside, a fight is being fought against misinformation, disinformation and fake news.
I've been monitoring and analysing media since 1993. I've been running MMA since and even just about as long, since about 2000. And yeah, I love it.
But never before has he seen this threat to democracy. 2 words: fake news.
What we've seen also, certainly in the States, in Brazil, in the UK, closer to home in Kenya and Zambia, and in fact in Zimbabwe, is that we've seen people who are out to destabilize or manipulate elections results for their own purposes, be they political, commercial, whatever the case may be. And so those things pose a fundamental risk to our democracy, because they tend to be spreading disinformation, which is spreading false information with the intent to cause harm, or in our case, spreading false information with the intent to undermine our elections process.
People who are running these elections in South Africa want to avoid footsteps of folly. One of the people watching where people put their feet is Janet Love. She was an anti-apartheid activist who was in exile for 10 years. It's been a rocky road. South African democracy has been through it all: political infighting, economic decline and corruption. When she came home, she threw herself into the democracy.
In the constitution-making process of the Constitutional Assembly function of the first members, the first 5 years when people were members of Parliament, they were also members of the Constitutional Assembly. And as part of that, I was part of the subcommittee that dealt with Chapter 9s, and so I had both the stimulation and privilege of learning a lot about electoral systems of other parts of the world. And of course, in the build-up to our first free elections in 1994, I was at that time in the institution that was set up as a transitional institution to oversee various functions of government, and we worked very closely with the then IEC, or the Electoral Commission, that was headed by a group of people who ushered in our democracy.
Now Janet Love faces a new threat: fake news that threatens conduct and thinking.
But much more in the context of influencing conduct and influencing thinking in a way that lacks the transparency and lacks the robustness that we would like to see. So in that context, digital media, social media, and the platforms that they use are a very big area of concern. And for that reason, we've attempted to set up a process whereby people can log their complaints in relation to breaches of or alleged breaches of the code that happen via the various social media platforms in the digital space, that those can be logged with us on an online portal so that we can attempt to deal with them as expeditiously as possible.
The Electoral Commission is working with Media Monitoring Africa as it goes online and into battle.
So when you log on, it's real411.org.za, and what you'll see is the homepage where there's just information about learning more about what digital disinformation is. And then your next page is the next one is about reporting disinformation.
But some have argued that complaints are not being dealt with expeditiously. Love differs.
We've been involved in processing well over 70 such matters, and we will absolutely be issuing a report, which will be a detailed report for people to see, because we also see this as a learning experience, not just for ourselves, but internationally. It is a first for an electoral management body to be really grappling with this threat and this issue of social media not obviously as the sole ones who engage these problems, but as an important player for an election process. And we hope that our experience will firstly inform us, but also inform other electoral management bodies. And we are certainly not seeing this as, the solution. We're seeing it as a contribution, and we want to learn from it, and we want to then share what we've done and how it has, unfolded with the wider public, including people in the media space, in order to do better as we go along, because social media is not going away, digital space is not going away, it's only going to grow in importance.
It is also addressing hard copy complaints relating to #AlexTotalShutdown. Allegations have surfaced that people used an army of bots in WhatsApp to spread chaos.
As part of what has been submitted to us in paper form, an indication of the use of digital media is certainly what will be part of the investigation, and we'll definitely give that feedback as soon as we've got that.
But it is not just at the IEC where the footsteps of folly are a problem. There is also a bit of soul-searching going on at the Africa heart of the world's biggest social network, Facebook. This is Emila Gandhi, Facebook's public policy lead, SADC region. She is one of the foot soldiers of Facebook who is working to change the image of that network as a peddler of fake news.
So one, we are partnering with third-party fact-checkers, and these are independent third-party fact-checkers, Africa Check and AFP, who are certified by the International Fact-Checking Network. And we are also working at, we're also working with different stakeholders like academics and developers to ensure that all these issues around misinformation and false news, we are really working towards that. What we have also do in terms of reducing misinformation on our platform is to reduce fake accounts. Our platform has been built our platform has been built to support authentic dialogue. We believe that when people are their authentic selves, when they use their authentic identities, they can be accountable for the actions that they show on our platform. And false news is bad for people, it's also bad for Facebook. So we have invested in technology, and we've also invested in people. And in terms of technology, what we have done is to ensure that artificial intelligence can also detect fake accounts right at the point of creation without us without people actually reporting on the fake accounts. And the fourth thing that we are doing to reduce false news and misinformation, particularly as we go towards the elections, is deploying civic engagement products. In January this year, we launched a product that notified people or reminded them to go and register to vote. So we did this in January this year. And secondly, we are going also to launch options for people to be able to report content that they feel should not be on Facebook. We have established a relationship with the Electoral Commission to be able to, for example, we trained 48 political parties for them to be able to for them to be safe, one, for their presence and also their accounts on our platform, and secondly, for them to know about our community standards and safety for themselves on our platform. We've also worked with academics through the Election Research Commission, and this is a network of academics across Africa, and we hosted them here at the office, the Africa office, for just to show our commitment to election integrity.
Kate Wilkinson is one of Facebook's last lines of defense.
And I became interested in the importance of fact-checking because I saw the sometimes unfortunate ways that the media reported on events and issues, and I wanted to see if I could help and improve the quality of that reporting.
It is a passion that led her to Africa Check, where she and her colleagues have had a busy year dealing with election misinformation.
I saw a hoax that was being shared in Nigeria about which finger you had to use to vote, and there was misinformation that if you did it with the wrong finger, your vote wouldn't be counted. And that's the sort of political content that we fact check on the platform. Generally, the work that we do around elections is that we fact-check manifestos. So we look at the statements which are made in the manifestos, and we determine whether they're accurate or not, and we release them as reports. In South Africa, we're doing that for the top 3 parties, the ANC, the DA, and the EFF. But then we're also working on a voter education campaign where we've identified 10 important topical issues, and we're releasing FAQs or fact sheets on them so that voters have very important information that's presented in a really easy, simple way, and that they can use that information to determine if what they're being told is true or not. Africa Check is one of a number of fact-checking organizations which has partnered with Facebook in their third-party fact-checking program. And what that means is that Facebook has given us a little bit of a backdoor into the platform where we're able to see content, pictures, videos, posts which have been flagged as potentially false. We then get to select from that list. We get to choose on our own accord what we want to fact check. And then once we've published our fact check, we can mark it as incorrect. And in that case, Facebook says that they reduce the circulation. So if there's, say, a very bad health warning that's being shared on Facebook, or there's advice about how you can cure HIV or cure cancer, this can have a huge impact on people's lives. And in this case, it can actually be a case of life or death. So what Facebook will do is, if we find that to be incorrect, they will reduce its circulation. They don't remove it, but they say we're going to make sure that people, as many people as possible, don't see this because we think it could have a negative impact.
There are many paid to tackle fake news. South Africans can also do their bit.
I think the first tip is to not take anything at face value and to not just believe someone because they're in a position of authority. Often the people, politicians, leaders of political parties I look up to, we often think they know what they're talking about, and they often say things in a very confident way that suggests that they're right. But the first tip is that you can always ask people to provide evidence for what they're saying. So whether it's on Twitter or at a rally, you can engage people. You can ask them what proof they have for the statement they're making. And if you can't figure it out yourself, you then can get in touch with us. You can tweet us or email us and ask us to look into the claim for you.
So there are a number of things that they can do. The first is to familiarize themselves with this, and then, as I said, the other tool, Padre, if you start to get used to what your different political parties are doing and the adverts that they're putting up, and so here's the political ad repository site. And at the moment, the only 2 parties that have done it are the ANC and the DA, and they've loaded up some of their ads that you can see there. The other thing they can do is if they've got an Android device, they can download, they can go to rover.directory.africa, and here they can download an app that you can use to upskill yourself, learn how to spot dodgy, real or rubbish news, and then there's some quizzes that you can do. And then also, once you've got it installed on your device, when you click share and you want to share a story from, let's say, Twitter, you share it, you check it through with Rover, and it'll tell you whether or not this is from a real or rubbish site.
4 people, 1 big problem. 4 pairs of hands could carry the hopes of a fragile democracy.